It's time for Law in Our Life. We've got Gwangju here in the studio with us. She is a local lawyer. She's going to tell us about divorce, the D word. Hello, Gwangju.
Hi.
So last week we talked a lot about divorce, and we're still not finished, are we?
No.
Yeah. So last week we talked about uncontested divorce. You said it was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you both fill out the papers, and after a month or 3 months, if you have kids, you have to go watch some video. Then you go in front of the judge. The judge says, okay, do you guys want to get divorced? If you're both there and both of you say okay, then you get the paperwork, then you submit that to the district office, boom.
Yep.
And if it's contested,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you've got to fight about stuff, right?
Yes.
And I guess a contested divorce, the judge is going to make decisions about things.
Yes.
All right. So be nice to the judge. Now, what about today? What do you want to focus on? You said it would be a little different.
Yes. Today, if your situation is that your spouse filed a divorce lawsuit against you, but you do not want to get divorced,
all right.
What can you do?
What a terrible feeling that would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does it go?
So after your spouse filed a lawsuit, the court will deliver the complaint, which is the paperwork that your spouse submitted to the court.
Right.
And they will send it to you by mail.
Okay.
So in that case, make sure to submit your answer to the court.
In the U.S., that's when you get served, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In the U.S., it's called the process of serving.
Okay.
So you may think, oh, I do not want to get divorced, so I'll just ignore it.
Yeah.
But it's not the trick that you should use here.
Okay.
So if you do not submit your answer to the court,
Mm-hmm.
the court will regard that you admit and confess what the plaintiff, your spouse, argues, and may decide in favor of the plaintiff.
And so that could be, if I don't want to get divorced, that's bad because now we're divorced. And also, I could probably get in some trouble over money and kids and stuff too. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So you should explicitly write your opinion on divorce, including alimony, like division of property, custody of minor children, so that you can persuade a court to decide in favor of you.
Yeah. All right.
So in Korea, to end the marriage via lawsuit, not by agreement, your spouse must argue on the 6 grounds of judicial divorce.
Mm-hmm. Now, you told me about those 6 grounds, and one of them was pretty broad. Is there anything else we should know about it?
In addition, it's a set rule that spouse who has fault in ruining the marriage, such as committing adultery, cannot file a lawsuit for divorce.
Really?
Yes, it's prohibited, and such lawsuit will be dismissed at the end.
Okay. So just let me get this straight. If I'm like, if I again, using this example, if you and I are married, if I want to leave you for another woman who I've been having an affair with, I can't file for divorce and say, no, I'm in love with this other woman.
No.
Or would that maybe be that 6th circumstance where it could be a reason to end the marriage?
That will not be accepted as the last category. Even there is 6 grounds that the law set forth.
Yeah.
The 6th ground is that there is some serious situations where that it's impossible to maintain the marriage.
Right.
You may argue that, oh, I'm not in love with my spouse anymore.
Right.
So I cannot maintain my relationship with her. But in Korea, it's not accepted because you are at fault spouse.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yes.
Is that based because, I know before, until recently, adultery was a crime? So maybe it has some roots in that?
Yeah, maybe, but it's more like if you are the one who ruined the marriage, you cannot get what you want.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Okay, so they can keep me at home, I guess.
So sometimes the at-fault spouse really try to trap the other spouse, saying that you did something wrong, so we are even now.
Okay, well, here we are on the radio with divorce tips. Now, let's move on from that and assume that what if you agree about the divorce you itself, but you have problems with what they're saying, with their reasons.
Yes. Even though you agree on the divorce itself, you may find that the complaint contains incorrect argument about who is at fault. Then you can file counterclaim. That means that you can file another lawsuit concurrently and ask the judge to decide in favor of you based on your story.
Okay.
So it's different from just a defense, as it's more affirmative method to make your case.
I see.
Yes.
All right. So, tell me some ways that this can work. How does the counterclaim go?
So in the counterclaim, you can argue that the spouse who filed the lawsuit is at fault, not me.
So the fault.
Yes, so the divorce should be granted on that base, not because I'm at fault, as my spouse argues.
Okay.
So for foreigners, it can be critical, since the foreigner who get divorced on the ground that Korean spouse was mainly at fault can maintain their legal status in Korea as a kind of victim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but while a foreigner who is at fault of divorce cannot renew their alien register card based on the marital status.
Ooh, wow. So if we're getting divorced and it's ugly, and it's my fault, after we get divorced, I lose my marriage visa.
You do not lose.
I can't renew it.
You cannot renew it.
But if it was your fault, I could just renew it.
Yes.
What if it's no contest?
So in that case, usually it doesn't work for the foreigners.
Oh.
So
I still can't renew.
Yeah. Usually the immigration office wants to have any evidence like it was the Korean spouse's fault.
Okay.
But in the uncontested divorce, it's very hard to make that comment in anywhere in the paper.
Right. So if it's uncontested, the foreigner's still going to lose because they're losing their status.
Their immigration office always has some kind of discretion, so I cannot say it's 100% correct.
Oh, okay.
But it usually that works for the foreigners.
Well, then that's my question. If you get divorced, how can you maintain your status in Korea if you are the dependent Korean spouse in terms of immigration law?
Yes. First, in the court, if the court decision is made on the ground that the marriage was resolved due to the fault of Korean spouse, as I said, you are entitled to renew your ARC, Alien Register Card.
Yeah.
Or if you lose your status as a spouse of a Korean national, you may argue that you have minor children with Korean nationality that you should take care of.
Okay.
That's why I should stay in Korea. In such case, the immigration office may grant a renewal of legal status until the child reaches the age of majority, because you are here as their guardian.
Got it. Okay. What if there's no kids? Do you have to get out?
You can stay until the expiration date of the alien register card. What if you want to stay a bit longer?
Yeah.
If you have some issues to deal with before you leave, such as getting the security deposit back from your house, having any pending legal disputes in Korea, such as lawsuits, you can submit such evidence to suggest that you need extra time in Korea.
So some visa extension or something. All right. But of course, you need to do the paperwork. So now I've got some questions because we have a little time.
Yep.
From what I understand, South Korea has a very high rate of divorce, one of the highest in the developed worlds.
Okay.
And my question is, I guess, why is it so high here? Is it easy to get divorced in Korea? Or was it more difficult in the past, so marriages hung on, and then once it became easier, a lot of people got divorced at the same time?
Maybe because the perspective on divorce has changed. Previously, many women didn't have a job. They were kind of dependent on their husband's income. And traditionally, they thought marriage shouldn't be broken. So they were more kept in that kind of old concept of marriage. But nowadays, the world is changing, and many Korean women think they are more independent.
Okay.
And they have financial capacity to maintain their life after divorce.
All right.
So
before, the women were often kind of more captive in the relationship in some sense. It's harder for them to leave. All right. Now, what about, who gets the kids in the West, in Canada, for example? I think that the mother generally has quite a big advantage going into divorce court about keeping custody of the children. What about here in Korea? Because I've heard in Korea, actually, the men often get get custody more than we'd see in North America?
I think that's more about like the old day cases, because
Okay.
in the old days, the court looked at more about the financial capacity of the parents who can
Okay.
make money or
And that's
get
just the
income
man.
to raise the kids. But nowadays, they're saying that the spouse anyway have to provide the child support for the custodial parents.
Okay.
So usually if the child is very young, mother has more possibility to get the children's custody.
Right.
Or even though dad sometimes can get the custody when the kids stay more time with dad, or if the dad is a primary caregiver.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and explaining this for us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure.